Today, we're diving into the story of Pratap Subba, an artist whose music wasn't just for entertainment, it actually became the very voice of the Bhutanese Nepali people and really a way of defining their identity through song. A quote like this really gets to the heart of his impact. When someone calls you a star that never sets, it's not just about being famous. It's about becoming a permanent part of your culture's story, a constant light through good times and bad. So that's the real question, isn't it? How does that happen? His journey is this incredible story of passion, of perseverance, and of how a single song can echo through generations. So let's start at the very beginning. To really get the artist, you've got to go back to the start. And Pratap Subba's story, well, it doesn't begin with a struggle. It starts in a supportive world where the first seeds of his musical talent really had a chance to grow. So his path was kind of set pretty early on. He was born into a prominent family, so he had access to a great education. But the real turning point, the moment that changed everything, came in 1968 when he joined his school choir. That was the spark. And from that moment on, his life just became this series of deliberate steps. Formal training, entering competitions, all of it honing the craft that would one day define an entire community. Now, here's what's really interesting. His personal passion very quickly became a mission for his whole community. This was never just about making music for himself. It was about using music to build something, to preserve a culture. In 1975, he and 4 of his friends co-founded the All-Air Culture Sporting Club. Okay, the name might sound a little casual, but its purpose was anything but. This club became the main engine for preserving and promoting Nepali traditions all across Bhutan. And the club's mission was crystal clear. It was really a 3-step approach. First, preserve the culture, the very core of who they were. Second, use music and musical programs as the main way to express and celebrate that culture. And third, and this is so crucial, to actively serve the community in very real, tangible ways. And this just perfectly illustrates their commitment. This wasn't just some band or a casual music group. They were a social force. Yes, they organized events, but they also took on these profound responsibilities, like making sure even the unclaimed deceased got a dignified farewell. That just shows you the deep connection they had to their people. This local foundation was absolutely essential, but Pratap Subba knew that to make a real impact, he needed a bigger stage. So he set his sights on the most powerful medium of that time, the radio. This is where he gets his big break. This was a huge deal. Just imagine the determination it took back in 1978 to travel all the way from Bhutan to Kathmandu, just for a voice test. And he passed. It proved his talent was ready for a national audience. But the real breakthrough? Well, that was still a few years away. The year is 1982, and this is the moment. This is when everything changes. After all those years of hard work, his first song, Timidu Yana du Maya Moha, is officially recorded and broadcast. So here's the crucial point. It wasn't just a song. It was a first. The very first time a Bhutanese Nepali singer was officially recorded and played on such a major platform. For a community whose voice had been pretty much unheard, this was absolutely a monumental event. 6 years later, he hits another peak. In 1988, he releases his debut album, a project that would absolutely cement his legacy. And you can just feel the weight of that accomplishment in his own words. Bandhan Cochino wasn't just a collection of songs for him. He called it the fulfillment of his life's purpose. It was the culmination of everything he had been working towards. But just as he reached this incredible professional high, his entire world was turned upside down. The next chapter of his life is one defined by immense hardship, but also by incredible resilience. In the early 90s, the political climate in Bhutan shifted, and it shifted dramatically. He, along with thousands of other Lhotshampas, that's the ethnic Nepali-speaking community of southern Bhutan, was forced into exile. He became a refugee in Nepal. The change was just so jarring and absolute. He went from being this celebrated cultural icon in his home country to a refugee, stripped of everything, facing a completely uncertain future. The whiplash is almost impossible to imagine. And yet, he didn't stop. In the refugee camps, in the middle of all that difficulty, he continued his sadhana, his disciplined spiritual practice of music. He collaborated with giants of Nepali music, released albums that spoke to his new reality, and he even pushed himself into totally new genres. He admitted he had moments where he wanted to quit, but his art, His art is what kept him going. And all of this brings us to his legacy, a legacy that was forged not just in fame, but in fire. It's the story of how his music not only survived, but continued to evolve, securing his place as that star that never sets.
And this is just a small selection of his incredible work. Each album really marks a different chapter. You've got his iconic debut, Bondadan Cochino. Then you have these revolutionary albums forged in exile, like Kranti Kahori, which means Revolution's Storm. And then later, these deeply spiritual reflections, like Amar Darpan. His discography isn't just a list of songs. It's the diary of his life.
His journey eventually led him to the United States in 2008, and that's where he lives today. And he's still doing what he has always done, studying, creating, and performing. He's no longer just the voice of a community in Bhutan. He's now a global ambassador for his culture. I absolutely love this quote from him, especially in our world today that's so driven by visuals. It's really his artistic belief system. He believes in the purity of music, the power of a melody and a lyric to connect right to your soul without needing any kind of visual distraction. It's all about listening. And so we end with this. Pratap Subba's life really shows us that it takes more than just a good voice or a catchy tune. It takes purpose, it takes resilience, and it takes an absolutely unbreakable connection to your people. His story asks us to think about what really makes art timeless.